Hey, it's Thomas here, and welcome to another episode of BRStv Reacts, the awesome show where I get to check out your wicked cool aquariums that you've got going on at home, maybe give you my general thoughts, feedback, constructive criticism, some praise if you're doing a really good job, and yeah, it's tons of fun. And we're doing YouTube today, so these are submissions that you guys sent in through YouTube with the hashtag BRStv Reacts. Let's get started. First up, we've got HM. I gotta say, that was looking really blue at first. Thank you for throwing the filter on and showing everyone exactly how well a simple orange filter works. Looks like we got some Red Sea lighting with a couple of LED T5 tubes. Nice 6-line. Tank's really starting to come along. This is obviously a newer system, but euphyllias are looking happy. You got a lot of coral lines started on the rocks there. Starry Blenny, one of my favorites for algae. Beautiful looking zoas. Same with that bubble tip, just gorgeous. Little green digitata frag waiting to grow out when they take off, oh my. Nice green cap it looks like, red cap too. Got a nice trochus snail on the back glass there. Nice green bird's nest or bird of paradise perhaps. Beautiful fish. I'm a big fan of, and you don't see them as often in larger groups, but I'm a big fan of blue-green chromis. I think they look gorgeous. Personally, I like keeping them in groups of 12 or more. I figure that they usually do better in those groups. I've seen many a small group dwindle down to one, but larger groups tend to stick around a lot longer. So, yeah. I know you've got 5 in there so far, and if they, keep it up, then that's awesome. If you do find one is getting bullied more than the others or starts to thin out, which is what I find happens, one out of the group starts to get thinner and thinner and thinner, and eventually just disappears, and then another one goes through the same process. Their hierarchy and pecking order is pretty rough on the lowest of the totem pole, so having more and more and more of them usually kind of mitigates that a bit. Not to say you're going to face that issue, but if you do, I personally just find groups of 12 or more are usually the ticket to making sure that nobody is getting the constant short end of the stick. I absolutely love your collection of fish. I really, really like the blennies you've got in there. I love the firefish. Big fan of 6-line wrasses for utility. They're one of my favorites. And a pair of clowns, which is great. And then the leopard wrasse, which is gorgeous. Melanurus, I think they're called. Could be wrong. Lots of flow in this tank too. I see you've got the internal skimmer there. You've got a gyre pump, which is going to provide a lot of laminar flow, which is really, really great. It's going to get all of that water moving around that tank pretty quick. Plus, you've got the other 2 wave pumps, one on each end of the tank. So you've definitely got a ton of flow. You can see it in the corals. Everything's flowing around the anemones, but not too much. So you must have them dialed in pretty decently. Glad to see you got a net top on the tank too, making sure nobody's going to jump out. Ultimately though, if you're going to put a net top on your tank to try to prevent jumpers, you should just do your best to go the extra mile and get the bends and angles like the little 90s, which are available. You can get those little 90s so that you can perfectly go around your skimmer. Because right now you have it kind of up against the skimmer, so there's kind of like a slot where, don't ask me how, your fish will find a way, if they're going to jump directly out where there is no top. It always happens. You can have like a 1/4-inch gap in the corner and somehow your firefish finds it. So yeah, if having a net top is awesome, but I would definitely try to get the extra angles and a few longer pieces so that it tucks perfectly around your skimmer there instead of leaving that gap. Because even 80% coverage is a lot better than 0, but I don't know how they do it. They always find that gap. So I would hate for that. I would hate for that to happen and you'd be like, hey, I put a net top on. They still found a way out. Because they will. They always do. Tailspot blenny is really, really cute. I'm a big fan of tailspot blennies too. I actually have one on my fish list for my tank. Looks like you've got a ton of spirorbid snails on the back glass there. Not a bad sign. Things are coming along. That coral line's only gonna get more and more coverage over the rockwork as time goes on. But yeah, for what's a relatively new setup, I think you've got a really good selection for lighting in terms of just getting it right. The Red Sea lights are really, really good in terms of just giving you the right spectrum and not giving you enough control over them that you're going to mess it up in any kind of way. They're kind of like perfectly tuned to do what they got to do, and then you kind of just adjust the whites to your preference. So that's really, really great. They're easy enough to work with. And then having the two extra, what looks like T5, LED T5 style lamps, that's just going to give you like that even coverage to help blend in between the two lights a little bit more evenly. So that light setup should work just fine for you, and it's going to do a pretty great job. I can see you got a little bit of that short, almost film-like green algae growing in a few places. Nothing I'd be overly concerned about. That little patch on the around the zoas, that little patch of hair algae, I'd stay on top of that. Do everything you can right now to get rid of it. The last thing you want to do is, it doesn't look like much right now, but if it starts to take over, it can be so much harder to get rid of once it's the entire tank. I'd even go as far as to, maybe pull those out and give them a peroxide dip. Peroxide usually works pretty well on hair algae. If you're not comfy with that, definitely grab some handfuls or tweezerfuls or fingerfuls of that algae. Do as much manual removal as you can. I can see it's even starting on some of the other parts of the rotwork there. It may even be going away. I don't know if this is something you're already tackling. I'm just kind of noticing it and giving you some on-the-fly feedback. There's also a really great video that BRS put out, which is the top mistakes surrounding algae, and that's one of the best videos you could possibly watch for a situation like this. Lots of information on what you should be doing based on the common mistakes most people make. So hit that up if you want to get a good grasp on how to deal with that algae. But my advice is deal with it while it's not prevalent, because once it shows up in droves, it is so hard and so annoying to get rid of. It's a very long process. So yeah, just my word of caution to you, kick that in the butt now. Again, you could already be kicking in the butt. I'm just, telling you something you already know. So if I am, don't worry. I'm talking to everybody else who might not know this and is just seeing this for the first time and haven't experienced this problem yet. I really dig your rock work. The only thing I'll say is it's pretty, and it could just be the angle we're seeing it at because I can't see it from the side, but it looks like it's pretty vertical and very close to the back glass. So I don't know how much space you have to, be able to vacuum behind it or do any general maintenance behind the rockwork or get enough flow behind the rockwork so that you don't end up with detritus buildup. But what I really do like about it is it's visually pretty interesting. You've got the rule of thirds going on in that you've got a larger mass of rock, although it's the same height across the top, you've got a larger mass of rock on the left, and then probably almost half to a third of that rock on the right, and it's joined by this little bridge or arch. And it really looks nice and balanced in the tank, even though it is basically the same, distance from both sides of the tank, same distance in height. The shape is really, really nice, and that weight of, 2/3 on one side of the tank and 1/3 on the other side of the tank, it's visually very interesting and very appealing, and I dig it. But yeah, I would, if you can, because the tank looks like there's not too much that's permanently glued in place just yet, but I would try to move it a little bit further forward so that if, based on what I can see, if you don't have enough room to be able to gravel vacuum behind that rockwork, you'll have it after the fact. You can just shove everything a little bit forward and then you'll have the clearance. Very cool. You're off to an excellent start in this tank. I'd love to see it again in like a year. It's going to be a really, really cool tank. I hope you absolutely stick around in this hobby, make it through these small little algal blooms you've got before they turn into a massive headache, and you're going to be laughing. Just reefing away, growing the corals, feeling great, enjoying your fish the way we all want to. HM, thanks for sending in your tank. Lots of fun. Let's get on to Ian Carmichael. Ian Carmichael, let's see what you've got at your place of residence, assuming that's where your tank is. Big mature colony of cap. Bird's nests, looking a wee bit rough. Oh, the branching Euphilia also looking a wee bit rough. Some sort of acropora there. Looking a little pale. Another big mature acropora. Looking a little pale. Okay, okay. Fish look good. Tang is looking healthy. Clowns are looking healthy. Sump with a RoaPhos reactor. DIY tank controller. Going the DIY route's always fun. So the recession on that coral, to me, looks a heck of a lot like predation. Can I say for sure that it's predation? No. I'm not sure about many things in life. But it does look a lot like predation, something I would expect from like a Montipore eating flatworm or from Acropora flatworms. Tough to beat, very frustrating. Ultimately, I'm not going to get into how to treat them, but what I would do is I would really look into how to tell the signs of Acropora eating flatworms, or AEFW, Aquaport eating flatworms. Yeah, the abbreviation's AEFW. So if you look up treating AEFW or treating Aquaport eating flatworms, you'll be able to tell based on a lot of the photos and stuff that are out there whether or not that is what you're suffering from. They are almost impossible to see. They are basically clear or slightly tinted, slightly like a yellowy brown, but they blend in with the tissue of Acropora like phenomenally well. I've had them in the past. They suck. Identifying it and treating it and doing your best to get rid of them is the only way you're going to fix the issue if that's what you have. Wrasses can help, but in my experience, none of the wrasses I tried were able to really make any kind of a dent in the population large enough to stop the individually affected coral from getting any worse. So I would definitely take a more proactive approach at treating it if that's what it is. Keep an eye on it. Bleaching can be caused by a few things. Just based on the general look of the tank, you have a lot of algae, a lot of filamentous hair algae. You've got a whack load of bubble algae as well. The road to recovery for your tank is going to be a fairly long one. The cool thing is you've got some big mature corals in this tank. At some point, this tank was obviously doing pretty darn well to get, you know, those colonies to grow to mature sizes. You obviously didn't buy these acros looking like that just based on their growth patterns are very weird. Like you don't just get them from the store like in these weird shapes that just happen to hug your rockwork perfectly. So you obviously had some really great success with the tank for a while, and at some point, whatever it was, something got out of hand. Sometimes life just gets busy and whatever. So I get it. But to get out of this place, it's going to take some time and effort. It's going to be a longer journey. But if you could get it to the point where you had amazing coral growth and things were doing really well and everything was looking great, you can obviously get back there. You did it once, you could do it again. No problem. I wouldn't sweat it. But you do need to take action pretty quick and just stick with it. Definitely check out that video I mentioned earlier, the top, I think it's top 15 fails with algae, top fails with algae. So check that out. It's in the top fails playlist. Yeah. So this tank might actually be a great tank to try a product like Vibrant on. This product takes a long time to work. You're probably not going to see any like super noticeable results for at least 8 or 9 weeks, but it should do a very good job of outcompeting the algae that's in the tank. You don't currently have anything other than the RoaPhos that's going to be able to do that. RoaPhos is going to really get rid of, help bring down the phosphates, but there's all kinds of other things in the tank that it's not going to really affect as much. So using a product like this is definitely an option I'd consider when you're dealing with this much algae in the tank that's already really starting to affect the corals. There might be other things going on just based on, even Euphyllia, which are pretty forgiving corals as far as, corals that create calcium skeletons are concerned. So the fact that they're looking pretty receded and unhappy, there's something going on in the tank. I don't know what kind of your source water is. I don't know if you're using tap water for the tank or if you're using RDI, but something's in the water. I would maybe even venture a try with something like Metasorb or Cuprosorb, just in case there are heavy metals or something akin to that in the water that is causing the corals to react in this way. This kind of reaction, it's not something that happens overnight. This is a slow recession and degradation in the corals over time. So it's one of those things that isn't super obvious until it gets to a point where you're just like, I have no idea what's wrong. All my parameters are checking out that I can test for. I just have no clue. So I would try something like that as well to hopefully get this back in order. Like Montiporas are bulletproof, and that's probably why it's doing a little bit better than some of the other corals in these kinds of conditions. The really tough part is you can see that at some point this tank was amazing, right? You can see that you put a lot of effort into your rock work and placement. It looks really cool. You've got these big mature colonies of corals and just a buttload of pest algae. And that's, it's tough, but you're gonna swing right back from this, no problem. But your fish look great. They look happy, healthy. The tank's looking excellent. Still very small, lots of growing to do, but I don't see any signs of distress in the fish. It looks like it's primarily in the invertebrates. So that's, again, why I swing a little bit towards the idea of maybe there being some heavy metal or other substances in the water that something like Metasorb or Cuprosorb might be able to bring out. And then also, again, just maybe try Vibrant. Manual removal in this tank is going to be very difficult because there's so much bubble algae and manually removing it is really hard. So if you want to go short of restarting the tank entirely, which, let's face it, nobody wants to do, I think Vibrant's probably going to be one of the easiest ways to try to get it back on track. It's a long-term solution, but hopefully get it back on track. Test for everything under the sun you can test for, and if you have it in your budget, I would definitely look at doing an ICP test to see what underlying issues and all of those other crazy parameters like heavy metals and stuff could be affecting the tank to try to drill that down. But I hope you get a handle on it. I hope the advice I gave you kind of gets you started in the right direction. Don't forget, you can always reach out to us on Ask BRStv on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. You can join there. There's a wealth of knowledge. We have thousands and thousands of members who have great experience, plus guys like me moderating, and we have a lot of fun doing it and giving you guys advice and any help you might need. So yeah. One other thing I'll mention is equipment-wise, this might be a really great tank to, at some point, get a skimmer on. If you don't have a skimmer, I can't really tell if you've got a hang-on one or anything like that in the tank, but a protein skimmer might help, or going down the algae reactor, where whether it's a turf scrubber or a macroalgae reactor, or just a refugium, converting the sump to a sump refugium instead of just a media reactor. That's also going to help mitigate the extra nutrients that are likely, only making the issue a little bit worse. So yeah, all that other stuff I said as well. Ian Carmichael, thank you so much for that very honest and refreshing submission. I really hope others will take a page out of your book and submit their tanks even if they're not in the best condition, because that's what we're here for. We want to help, want to try to get those tanks back on track. And honestly, it's great for other people to see these kinds of issues, especially ones that are so far progressed like that give a really good example, because you don't see a lot of it. People don't usually want to talk about it when their tanks look like that. It takes a lot of guts to basically put your tank up in the forefront and be like, hey, this isn't the best, give me some help. And the best part about doing that is you're helping so many other people who might not have that confidence in doing that. So thank you. I appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. Awesome. Next up, Mervyn Jones. Looking at your tank. Beautiful tanks, blue throat trigger, maroon clown, lightning maroon clown. Gorgeous colony of just screaming green digitata. Orange Digi, bunch of beautiful SPS. Flame Angel in there too. Man. Tamini Tang, beauty. A lot of nice Euphyllias in there too. I don't know where to look. Everything's just so bright. Lots of frags, lots of stuff to grow out, but everything's got really good color. Everything's encrusting really nicely. Beautiful, beautiful chalice down there on the bottom. The red and blue kind of stripes with the orange mouths. Really, really nice. Lots of acros. Longnose hawkfish. Is that a longnose hawkfish? Nice. Beautiful zoanthids. Nice foxface or rabbitfish you got there. Pavona, is that Pavona? I'm not sure what that is, but it's beautiful. That green SPS down on the bottom, I think it's an SPS. Clams! I love clams! That's a very, very nice Jurasa. Gorgeous Jurasa clam, nice bubble. Nice like purple Neptha of some kind. Leopard wrasse there. Beautiful copper band. Looks like it's doing pretty well, which is great. Very sociable, not hiding out in the front with everybody else, so I'm sure you've got that thing feeding pretty well if it's feeling that confident. T5s and LED light. Oh, the fish room. Holy! I think you got some equipment there. UV sterilizer, Trident, battery backups, Apex, calcium reactor, sump. You got the algae turf scrubber there that I've done a review on. Solid piece of kit. Nice blue plumbing, maintenance sink right there. Big, beautiful RODI unit. Mixing station. You basically got everything you need to make sure this tank's gonna stay running. An entire room. Not all of us have the space for an entire room behind the tank. So, you know, there might be a few jealous people out there. I'm not gonna name names. Excellent choice of flooring too, because, you know, in a room like that where you're likely to splash water, it's nice when you don't have to think about it. Happy fish. I love seeing fish that are not shy, that are hungry and ready to eat, you know, that are really, really personable, because obviously you must be doing a good job at keeping them full up. I usually don't recommend people keep cleaner wrasses and stuff, but with a tank absolutely stocked with fish like that, and if you've had luck getting it to eat, which you people can. People have kept them long term. They're just really, really tough expert-only fish, but you've got a lot of really, really great fish in there that are a little bit tougher, like that copper band, that look really healthy. So you must have a knack for it. And just coral, top to bottom, and really cool rock work. Really interesting rock work. It's not right up against the back there. I think that thing I thought was an acro before might be a Monty, but I'm not entirely sure. But it's gorgeous. It's the bluish purple one, kind of staghorn-esque tips with green polyps, or elkhorn-esque tips, I should say. So much eye candy. Lots of nice polyp extension on that acro there too. The fish are just all in front of the camera. Got some nice classic blue mushrooms in there as well. Just discosoma mushrooms, really, really nice. This is just, what can you say? It's a gorgeous tank. It's a really, really nice tank. Obligatory frag racks, because of course you ran out of space or just not sure we're gonna stick those next few frags yet. Here's my one piece of advice. And it's not even like super important advice, but I'm gonna give it to you anyways, just because. With that entire fish room behind the tank, why don't you just, I don't know, plug in like a frag system, and then you could get those frag racks out of the main display and then put them in the frag system so that you don't have to look at frag racks in your tank. How's that for advice? You don't need my help. You know what you're doing. Awesome. Thanks for the inspirational eye candy and really, really cool fish room. Like that maintenance room behind the tank is awesome. Like, I know I use that word a lot, but it's because I'm so stoked when I watch these. Mervyn Jones, bragging rights. You got him. Next up, we've got Ohio streets. Let's see what's cooking in the streets of Ohio. Another really, really cool tank. Really nice rock work in this tank. Really, really nice. Bare bottom, lots of corals growing on the bottom of the tank. Huge, huge colonies of beautiful, beautiful chalices down there. Space Invader Pectinia. I'm just gonna take a moment right now to stop and talk about the tangs. Powder blue, not the easiest tank, absolutely gorgeous. People love those tangs. Yellow tang, okay, a little more common, definitely easier, but then an Achilles. Just to trifecta of beautiful, bright tangs that are very difficult to keep. You got a powder blue, not the easiest, and an Achilles. They both look fat and healthy, so props there. Really, really nice fish. Oh, and a Desjardins sailfin, no big deal. Nice angel in there as well. Bunch of acans. You got a really cool collection of LPS on the bottom. Beach bum Montipora, it looks like, or some iteration thereof. Somebody's gonna correct me and be like, it's not beach bum, it's the other kind that looks the same. Whatever it is, it's gorgeous. So what I really like about your rock work is that based on the shadows I can see underneath it, it's mostly not touching the bottom of the tank, which is a more difficult feat to pull off, but it's very, very impressive and very, very good for flow in SPS tanks especially. The corals themselves are going to grow so close together and so densely that having less rock work and lots of space for the water to flow in between those colonies is really, really important and can really, really aid in just the overall health and growth of that reef. So you've got this really cool system of branching rock work that these SPS colonies are kind of placed on top of, and lots of clearance underneath. And not only is it just visually very, very cool, but it's going to have just a positive impact in the overall flow and health of the aquarium, which is awesome. And that right side of the tank with those montiporas and stuff that are really close to the front there, that just looks stellar. They're all so well grown in and branching together, and you've picked contrasting colors for the colonies, and they look really, really good. Got some movement in the back there too. I think I saw maybe some gorgonians or something. You don't keep the camera there for very long, so it's hard to say. Looks like either a softie or a gorgonian. Can't really tell. But really, really nice. Just coralline all over the bottom. I can't even see the glass. It's just coralline. Coralline and corals. I wish you just pulled the camera back a little bit so I could see the whole tank at once. Because I can tell this is just a stunning reef that you must be very, very proud of. It's awesome. You're doing a phenomenal job. Those Bauer Banky? I don't know, but those Acan-esque LPS on the bottom, kind of in the center of the tank, are gorgeous too. Really great work. Last but not least, we've got shallow reefing. I'm assuming your tank is pretty shallow. Oh, sweet. Okay, right off the get-go, it's actually 3 tanks. We've got a small cube on the left, another looks like maybe cube on the right, frag system, and like a species only or something like that. And I'm going to go off and say that your stand looks like it's probably DIY, and I like the tiled accent right below the tank. That's pretty cool. And I like the light guard that you've got above it, like that kind of shroud you've built around your lighting. All right, let's dive deeper into this. Oh, absolutely full of coral. Absolutely full. So just gigantic euphyllias. Nice, big, beautiful leather, gigantic colony of zoanthids or pallies on the right there. We've got a nice rock of a few different types of blastomosa, which is really, really nice. Maybe it's either another blasto or brain next to a candy cane of some sort, or acan. I haven't let myself get close enough to the tank yet because I'm too busy taking it in from this angle. But it's all looking really, really slick. The acros are looking really, really nice, or the SPS in general. Beautiful fish. Hippo tang, or blue tang, or dory, whatever you want to call it. Flame angel. There, now we're getting closer. So those are a nice big colony of pink zoanthids with a fox coral underneath it. Just nice acros, nice big colonies of euphyllia. Swinging around the corner. Some nice bullseye or rhodactis mushrooms down there by the leather that clown is absolutely in love with. So those look like a micro blasto. That we were looking at earlier next to an acan, perhaps. Some more acans and echinata. Oh, beautiful chalice in the middle of all those monties. Got a candy cane. Really nice LPS. Phenomenal. I think those are monties, those encrusting ones that are right behind that like dragon sulfavia or whatever that is. The one, it might be the same coral. They might be 2 different corals. I can't really tell. But the one that's on the right that I'm looking at is really cool. So it looks like it's got like a blue-green rim. Like the majority of the coral is green. Very, very textured. Kind of a bluish tint to the rim. And then the polyps look like they're orange. I don't know what that is, but it looks really, really cool. Now we're swinging over to the frag system. Look at what I've been talking about through the earlier parts of this rendition of BRStv Reacts, having a frag system instead of keeping your frags in the tank. Look, I'm not going to shame anybody for keeping your frags in the tank. Look, I know some of us have to do it. I'm probably going to have to do it. I don't like having 2 tanks if I can avoid it. But it's nice when you don't have to look at that stuff. Some view of the kit, some of the stuff you're using. We're peeling back the stand. Very basic sump. Really awesome just to see, again, you don't have to go crazy with your sump, buy like a really complex acrylic sump if you don't want to. You can get a glass sump, even buy acrylic panels or inserts to, make a DIY sump with some prefab parts, or you can just go full DIY. Clearly, just based on, and using your sump for frag space. I love it. Clearly, you can, do a DIY sump and have an absolutely fire tank. Just gorgeous. Got some controllers, equipment, some tune stuff. Apex. Apex is looking sweet. Oh, top down, sweet. There's that chalice I was talking about earlier. Really, really nice. Forest Fire Digi, looks like orange Digi. Just massive corals. Shallow reefing. Awesome. For pumps, keeping it pretty simple, it looks like. You got a gyre pump in there. It must be doing a pretty good job. Couple of gyres. There's a gyre on each end. I'm also a really big fan of peninsula style tanks where you can kind of utilize as many sides of the aquarium as possible and reef in 3D, so to speak. So you can really, I unfortunately won't have that opportunity. I've only got 2 visible panels, but I'm trying to do the best I can with the both of them, considering the tank's empty. But it's really nice when the background of your reef just goes on forever because there's nothing behind the tank. There's no background or nothing. It's really interesting. And also, I really think it's cool to have that juxtaposition where, you're clearly looking at a reef in a living room or some room. You've got a window behind the tank. It's just like, oh yeah, this is just the reef that's in the middle of the house. There's no illusion to it. It's a reef. It's looking awesome, but on all sides of it, you can see straight through, and it's just the room. It's really cool. Your tank is so much fun. Shallow reefing, you're doing shallow reefing justice. I absolutely love it. Excellent, excellent tank. This is a really cool mix of tanks. A lot of fun. Thank you so much for sending in your awesome videos of your aquariums. I thoroughly enjoy watching them and then spilling my coffee on myself in sheer amazement of what you, the reefing community, is capable of. If you want to have your tank seen on one of these React episodes, go ahead and upload it to YouTube with the hashtag BRStv Reacts, and then I'll get to see it. If you want to see more of these awesome aquariums that you guys have sent in for us to view, you can check out the React playlist right here. Lots of cool tanks. All of which worth spitting my coffee onto myself over.